Today we're going to do a lecture on, this is our December 4 for biology on cell structure. We started this last time, but we're going to finish it today. Cell structure. And if you have a question, I may be staring at my computer, so speak up, raise your hand, get my attention somehow, and I will help. So, cellular boundaries. We have plasma membrane, right, and cell wall. What's the difference between a plasma membrane and a cell wall? Isaac?
I have no idea.
Well, tell me what a plasma membrane is.
It's like the thing that goes around the cell.
Okay, tell me some characteristics of it.
It allows for things to happen now. It has carbohydrates and cholesterol.
Right, right. And phospholipids, did you say that one?
No,
Okay. What else? Nathan, what is a cell wall?
Cell wall is the outer wall of the cell.
Right, what is it made out of? Read off the screen. Correct, it's made of cellulose, which is the same thing that we make, which is the same thing that we make that plants use for their structure. Right, so it's not flexible, it's a hard shell of sorts. It does not, it lets everything in. Nathan, you have a question? I can't hear you guys nearly as well as they can hear me. Watch my videos, you'll be able to tell. Yes, Kirpa?
Is a plasma membrane made of cellulose too, or
No, plasma membrane is made out of phospholipids, proteins, and carbohydrates and cholesterol. So the things you saw in the fluid mosaic model we just showed. All right? Yes. Cell wall. Oops. Back, I say. Yes. That's why I give it to you. All right, let's move on to the next one. That's why I said you needed to make note cards. There's a lot of information here, and so making note cards and studying the stuff is a very good idea. All right, now control center, it's the nucleus. It has a porous membrane. In this picture, this grayish thing, beigeish thing is the membrane. You can see that it has these little pores, which are the little bumps there. We will talk about how they're built in a little bit. Once we, well, maybe not even now. We'll talk about it some other year, like sophomore years of college. But whatever. Has a porous membrane, a nuclear envelope. It controls the activity of the cell and its organelles. The nucleus is the control center. Which part of our school do you think that relates to? The main office, right? Because it's kind of the thing that controls everything. It's where all the information comes into and is sent out to everybody else. So it controls the activity. It contains chromatin, or strands of DNA, which contain the instructions for making protein, specifically making protein. So that's one of the things it contains. In this picture, these things, these little like loose creatures, are the chromatin. You also find the chromatin within this spherical thing in the middle, which we'll talk about in a moment. Nucleolus is this central thing here, this round blob sphere thing. That's nucleolus. What's its job? Make ribosomes. Hayden.
What's the difference between nucleolus and nucleus?
Okay, so the nucleus is everything contained by this membrane that I'm currently pointing at.
Wait.
Yes?
So you're saying there's the nucleus, which is the round circle which is inside, and then there's a little circle?
Right. It's inside.
Okay, it's inside.
A sphere inside, right.
Okay, so the small one.
The smaller one is nucleolus, and the large thing that contains it is the nucleus. It's like saying I have a head, right? And I have a brain, and the brain is not the same as the head. The brain is part of the head. So it's the same idea. It's like the nucleolus, but in this case it makes ribosomes. Annalise? Right. They come out of the nucleus through these holes, these pore things you see, these little bumps. Looks like suction cups. They come out of those and then go out into the cytoplasm, which is out here. Ribosomes make protein. So the chromatin, the nucleus contains the information in order to make proteins, right? Chromatin is the thing that contains that instructions for making proteins, and nucleolus produces the ribosomes which are going to produce proteins.
Wow.
So it's like saying I have a piece of paper, right? This piece of paper gives instructions to, like I printed this piece of paper a little bit ago, right? This is the plant and animal cell lab we're going to do today. This piece of paper is like chromatin. It contains the information to make the things happen that need to happen. Okay? I am going to give this piece of paper to all of you who are going to do the work. You're going to make stuff. You're going to make observations. In this case, I would be the nucleus. I'd be instructing you. This would be the chromatin, because it's what's giving you instructions. And then you would be the ribosomes, which are going to do the work of making the proteins, going to do the work of making the lab. Now, nucleolus is the thing that makes the proteins. It makes the ribosomes. So therefore, it could be your parents, because I didn't really make you. So, yeah. So it'd be your parents. Yes, they just disintegrate someplace in the process. I do not contain your parents. Right. So nucleolus makes ribosomes. Ribosomes make proteins. And chromatin gives the instructions to the ribosomes to produce the protein. Protein is what is used for all of the stuff in the cell. Proteins are what's in the membranes. Protein is what we use to build the other types of organelles. And so they're kind of the bricks we build everything else out of. Right. Okay. Oops. Where's my eraser? I just drew over the top of my diagram. Okay, so on this diagram, why is not working? Right. So where's the nucleus here? What color is it? Purple. So it's here, right? It is surrounded by the nuclear envelope, otherwise known as the nuclear membrane. The blue is nucleolus. A chromatin is all this loose stuff in here, okay, which is inside the nuclear envelope, but outside the nucleolus. Yes. I will give you a diagram that says, okay, here's an object. What is it? Yep. No, you're not. Nucleus is the whole thing, right? And then nuclear pores are these little divots. Yes. If it's ooh, a pore for yes, Annalise. No, the nucleolus uses the chromatin to produce, uses the instructions of the chromatin to produce ribosomes. Yes. And ribosomes make proteins. So let me draw a diagram here. We have proteins. Right, it's protein, P-R-O-T, because I can't write the whole word in the space I have. Proteins are made by ribosomes, which are made by the nucleolus, and the chromatin do not make protein. Chromatin is the information that goes into the nucleolus to make ribosomes. It's also the thing that is used to tell the ribosomes how to make the proteins. By extension, there are several things in between. Let me do this. I'm going to do a diagram here. Let me get to my other program. Don't try to draw this diagram until we're done, because I'm going to have to modify it several times, because I don't think I have all the pieces right. All right. So I have proteins. Yes, I'm drawing a picture. Proteins are produced by ribosomes. Right? What produce ribosomes? nucleolus. Now, we have chromatin, which have the instructions for making proteins. So this is useful to tell the nucleolus. I'm going to actually do this color. Nucleolus how to make ribosomes. So instead of telling the nucleus, let's put this here. This is going to go into this process. So it's kind of between the nucleolus and the ribosomes. It's the information that's used to produce ribosomes by nucleolus. Okay, and then this chromatin will be used later in some other examples. Chromatin is also the thing that kind of contains the DNA and the RNA, which are the kind of the actual building blocks that contain the information. Chromatin is the general name for the place that we store the instructions. We store the DNA and the RNA. Okay, so we'll come back to this once we have other pieces to put in. Samantha.
Okay, so protein produces ribosomes.
Ribosomes. So notice the way that the arrow goes here. Ribosomes.
So it's working down.
Correct. The direction of the arrows is the way that it works. So the nucleolus, the arrow points from nucleolus to ribosomes. So ribosomes are produced by the nucleolus.
Okay.
And then the ribosome arrow goes to proteins, so proteins are produced by ribosomes. Okay? Does that answer your question? We'll explain. So are you asking how it produces them? Okay, we'll get to that later. I think we'll get to that later. I'll try to answer that question in a little bit. Let me write down why real quick right here, or how, and then I'll try to get back to that. I think that's in this lecture someplace. At the moment, I primarily want to tell you what all the pieces are, and we'll talk about how it happens later, I expect. Okay, so nucleolus, right. Moving on. Ribosomes. These are the site of the protein production. This is my pen. This is where protein is produced. It is made of RNA and protein. So you take some protein, put some RNA with it in a specific organization, specific structure, and it is what is used then to produce, it is then a ribosome, which is used to produce protein. It does not have a membrane, and it is found in two places, in the cytoplasm and the rough endoplasmic reticulum, which we'll talk about what that is in a moment. Yes, Andy? They produce protein. Yes. RNA is actually the piece that carries the information. This carries the information. And the proteins are what is used to actually make the other proteins. By chemical reactions that we'll try to talk about when we get to the biochemistry part of this. How it happens, I'll try to explain later. Right now, I'm just trying to tell you the relation between the pieces and what the names are and what they do, not how it actually occurs. So I'll try to get to that. However, I want to give you the names first and how they're related, and then we'll get to the filling of the details. I don't know that it's part of this chapter, but I'll try to get to it in this chapter. We'll see. I'll have to look. I don't remember which part of the book is about biochemistry and which is about just biology. This stuff is just like the actual pieces. The description of how it happens is called biochemistry, and hopefully we'll get to some of that, but I'm not sure where that fits in this process. So these ribosomes are in the cytoplasm and the rough endoplasmic reticulum. They do not have membranes. They're made of RNA and protein. The RNA is the information. The protein is what we use to make the other proteins. Yes, Nathan? No, chemistry is about the actual reactions. We may talk about the biochemistry that's involved in chemistry, but we'll see. I don't know. I'm pretty sure chemistry in high school is not about biochemistry. That was a high school or a college thing for me. So I don't know. We'll see. I haven't gotten that far into the process yet. All right. So on this diagram, we just had several words: rough endoplasmic reticulum. We'll get to the smooth shortly. It's one of my slides later on. We talked about where are they here? Here's another picture of rough endoplasmic reticulum. Here's ribosomes. Ribosomes. Notice in this depiction, what are the ribosomes? What do they look like? Little dots, right? They're pretty small. They generally have a structure where you have some kind of protein on top, you have a protein on the bottom, and these proteins are associated in some way, chemical way. And then you have RNA that comes in and picks up protein pieces, like amino acids, which are the protein pieces. And these protein pieces then get attached together in the sequence that the RNA tells it. So the RNA gives a template, and then the amino acids are assembled in the order that the template shows. And we'll talk about the actual chemistry of that later once we get to genetics. So ribosomes, rough endoplasmic reticulum, and we should have some ribosomes that are in here that are on their way out, that are moving out of the nucleus through the pores. Because they're actually produced in the nucleus and then they're transported out. Kirk, are you awake with this? Yeah? Okay, just checking.
What's the thing called that stuff goes in and out of?
In this case?
Like on cell, like the waste goes in and out of it?
Proteins. Those are transport proteins. Yes, in the plasma membrane, there are transport proteins which things go in and out of. What did you think it was?
There's a thing called a vacuum.
Vacuole. Vacuole is an empty space in a plant cell, specifically. So a vacuole is an empty space in a plant cell. Yes?
This is not anything we're currently talking about, but is a cell actually really compact like that?
Yes.
It is.
The scale might be a little skewed on this, but I'm pretty sure this is pretty close.
Like do the mitochondria and the centrioles and all that stuff move around.
Yes. It turns out that there's actually a complex network of like a lattice of these little tubules that things move along. And so all of these things move around. This is not something you need to know. It's not within the scope of what we're doing, but there's this complex matrix of like tubes that things move along. So that's how things move around in the cell. They kind of transport along those. And so they're all moving with time in relation to each other. But ribosomes are almost always scattered throughout the cytoplasm, but there are also a lot of them around the rough endoplasmic reticulum. So we have them out here in the cytosol, in the cytoplasm. We have ribosomes along the rough endoplasmic reticulum, and we have a few of them in the nucleus because that's where they're being produced. Yes, Nathan?
If you had one cell that was, say, 1 centimeter long, just put it on the wall from one body.
Say that again?
If you have, okay, like, pretend each cell is 1 centimeter.
Okay. I don't know. There are a lot of cells in the body, but there are a lot of cells in the body, so I don't know. Annalise. Right. So cytosol. Right. So let's talk about cytosol and cytoplasm. These were two of the words that were on your sheets that we did, the note cards we did. Cytoplasm's on the note card. Cytosol was the heading that it was related to. So cytoplasm. Let's actually go back to my other depiction here. Cytoplasm contains. Let's see if I can draw this here. This is the cytoplasm. We're going to put cytoplasm as everything within this box. The cytoplasm. That was interesting. There we go. So the cytoplasm contains all of the organelles and the cytosol. So cytoplasm is all the organelles and the cytosol. This is like saying that the ocean is like the cytoplasm, okay? All of the creatures, all of the animals, all of the plants in the ocean are the organelles, and the cytosol is all the water. So the ocean is like the cytoplasm. It is contains two things. It has organisms of some various kinds, and it has water. So cytosol is like the water. The organelles are like all the organisms. So the organisms all have their functions. They're like the organelles. And the cytosol is like the stuff they swim in. It's the liquid that's in the cell. Yes, Vivian? The one I'm showing you is currently an animal cell. Yes. Cytosol and organelles both exist in both. It's an animal cell, right? Okay. Whew. Yes? Okay. Yes? The entire cell would be, say, the Earth, or the universe. The land could be a different kind of cell. Yes. Your visualization skills are greater than my analogy can handle. Yes. So the cell would be like the entire cell would be like saying the ocean as well. Cytoplasm. So in this case, cytoplasm would be the water and the organisms. If we put a boundary around the ocean, we had a membrane on the ocean, then the membrane and everything inside of it would be the cell. It's disintegrating at that point, but. Huh? Say it again. The cytoplasm contains the cytosol and the organelles. I think so, yes. Yes, that's correct. Everything within the plasma membrane. Yes. Correct. Correct. A cell has a membrane and cytoplasm. Cytoplasm contains cytosol and organelles. So let me draw that out here for you. A cell contains two pieces. The membrane, the cell membrane, and plus cytoplasm. Now, that's a cell. Now, cell contains these two things. Now, cytoplasm contains two things as well. Cytoplasm is made out of cytosol and organelles. Okay, so the cell contains cytosol and organelles, but it also contains cytoplasm because that's what cytosol and organelles put together are. And if you take you take the cytoplasm and you surround it with a cell membrane, then we have a cell. Yes, Nathan. Okay, moving on. Yes, Annalise. It includes the nucleus as well, because nucleus is one of our organelles. Not a question that's related to what we're currently talking about. Anyway, hopefully it was recording that whole time. We'll see. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Yes, I don't know which one you're talking about, but keep going.
It's the next one.
Okay, then let's get there first, and then we'll talk about it. All right, so we talked about ribosomes. Ribosomes fit in on my diagram over here as the thing the nucleolus makes, okay, and they are the things that produce proteins. Ribosomes are built out of a couple of protein pieces and use RNA as a template. They are found in the cytoplasm and the rough endoplasmic reticulum. All right.
They're found everywhere.
Hmm?
They're found everywhere.
Pretty much.
Wait, so are they found in the cytoplasm or the cytoplasm until
The answer to your question is yes, by them being in both places, they have to be attached to one or in the other. But I think what you're actually asking is Whether they prefer to be attached to the endoplasmic reticulum. They can produce proteins in both places, and so there's no preference in both cases. They can be in either one of the two places. No, not necessarily. They can be, but they are not necessarily going there. They put them into the cytosol. Not necessarily. The cytosol is made out of protein as well, and so it's water, protein, and various other things. So so part of the cytosol is protein as well. All right. So cytoplasm. Cytoplasm. Clear gel-like fluid inside the cell. All the cell parts free float in it. So actually, that should be cytosol. Oh, is that what was wrong? Well, why didn't you tell me there was a slide? Okay, I get it now. Okay. All right. That makes more sense now. This is wrong. What I was saying earlier was, wow, that was a lot easier than I thought it would be. Okay, all right, moving on. Sure. Interesting one. So that is all this liquid stuff in the cell. Cytosol, not cytoplasm. Cytoplasm contains cytosol plus organelles. Yes. What I said, not as what was written there. All right. Protein assembly. The endoplasmic reticulum assembles our proteins. So proteins are made throughout the cell, both within the cytosol, as well as within the endoplasmic reticulum, or by these ribosomes on the edges of it. And then these proteins are assembled, because most of the stuff in the Bible requires complex assemblies of proteins. Aiden, you with us? Reese, you with us? Body. I don't. Whatever. The body. That's what we need. So we're gonna take a brain break. So you're taking in a lot, and people are getting distracted. So we'll take a brain break for the next minute and a half, and then we'll end class. So that's the way we'll do it. And then we'll continue this next time. I will adjust the position of the test based on how well we're doing in this.
Why can't we just do this during lab? Because I don't like doing lab on stuff I don't understand. Why don't we just do this during lab? That way, tomorrow we can review.
In lab, I was actually going to show you the physical representation of these things so you could see how this works. So that was what I was thinking of doing. We could do this in lab. I don't have a problem with that. You know, okay. We could do this in lab. We'll talk about it when we get there. The other thing we were going to do is going to actually look at pictures of these organelles. So that was the other thing we were going to do in lab. No, this stuff and the stuff we made on our other note cards. Those are the things you'll need to know. Which part of the note cards don't you think do you not think is right? That includes the function as well. The functions of this, both of them have the function. Both of them have, and they should agree. They should agree. So it's not that one of them is wrong and the other one's right. They're both right. This one may have more information than the other one. I don't know. It depends on the specific piece. So study both. That's not what I plan. I plan to keep it within the extent of those two. Yes, sir.
No.
All right. Okay. Right. And then we'll walk over here someplace. Right. Okay, that's good. Good. Study from them. Good. Good. You have points for it. Yeah.
Just a quick question.
Hmm.
Are we gonna need to know which, what these things are in each of the cells, like in the plant management? We need to know.
I think so. Whether they're in either one of them?
Yeah. Where they're found. I mean, like some are in. I don't know.
Yeah, so you'll need to know what's on the note cards as to whether they're in plants or animals. So we did did those ones in the computer lab, right? And they have on there whether it's in one or the other or both. That part you'll need to know. The part similar to, yeah, we need to know that. I might ask one or two questions.
I thought there was like a meaning to a box or something.
Right. Okay. That's good. I like that. Yeah. Right. Okay. I'll try that. Okay. Yes, Ethan? Hurry back. Don't be late. Turn the light on. Go for it. Cello. Beep. Stop.